The Big Lebowski is one of the most iconic movies of the 1990s, and that is saying a lot. With equal parts crime conspiracy, comedy, slice of life, and high-concept mystery, this is a movie that scratches an itch that only the Coen brothers could pull off. In fact, the character of the Dude is one of the most quoted, memed, imitated, and referenced film characters among movie lovers.
You know, that's just like, your opinion, man.
And folks, what you don't know is that this character is actually based on a real person. Or technically, several real people. In today's episode, we take a deeper look at this fan-favorite comedy, break down the meaning of it, and ultimately try to answer the most important question. What the f*** happened to the Big Lebowski?
This could be a lot more complex. I mean, it's not just, it might not be just such a simple, you know?
Released in 1998, The Big Lebowski follows Jeff Lebowski, aka The Dude, an LA bowler with little need for a steady job, personal hygiene, or even a healthy lifestyle. He spends his days smoking weed and bowling with his buddies. You know, the good life. But when the Dude is mistaken for a different Jeff Lebowski, one who has millions of dollars, a personal butler, and Tara Reid for a wife, our hero gets pulled face first into a conspiracy of epic proportions with kidnapping scams, German nihilists, and Julianne Moore. This is not in any way a hot take, but this movie has a downright ideal cast. We'll get into that soon, but where the story really starts is behind the camera, with Joel and Ethan Coen, the Coen brothers. These boys need no introduction, but in case you didn't know, these are the filmmakers behind such movies as Raising Arizona, Barton Fink, Fargo, and No Country for Old Men. Also, a bunch of other great movies, I'll put some on the screen that I recommend. Now, famously, these directors typically write everything that they direct. And when they were in production on Barton Fink, they started kicking around ideas for another movie. Inspired by novelist Raymond Chandler, the brothers wanted to have their film centered around different social classes and their unique motives for participating in whatever the story's conflict is. However, they also wanted to introduce modern themes and ideas to a classic Raymond Chandler type story. Ethan Coen said that what they were after is a movie where their unlikely hero embarks on a mission that is deep and complex and ultimately unimportant. I think this movie is perfectly summed up by that last statement.
It just seemed interesting to us to thrust that character into the most confusing situation possible. The person, it would seem, on the face of it, least equipped to deal with it. That's sort of the conceit of the movie.
As for the main character of the piece, they knew that what would make this script work and unlock its potential in full would be writing a protagonist that could be lovable, tragic, dazed, confused, pathetic, and somehow unbothered about all of it. And folks, I was not kidding when I said that The Dude was based on real people. Jeff Lebowski is mostly based on Seattle 7 film producer Jeff Dowd, who was known by his friends as The Dude. And he did happen to enjoy the occasional White Russian. But what was Dowd really like? Was he walking around LA in a bathrobe and slumming it with his buddies in a bowling alley? No, he wasn't. That was Peter Exling. The other inspiration for The Dude was Peter Exling. The Coen brothers met him in film school and say that he lived in a dump of a house, but had a nice throw rug in the living room that he would boast to his friends, say it with me, really tied the room together.
This rug I have, it really tied the room together.
These are both direct quotes from both the movie and the real lives of the people the Coen brothers knew.
The Big Lebowski started really with us thinking about a friend of ours in Los Angeles who the character that Jeff Bridges plays is sort of loosely based on. This is a guy who we've known for about 15 years who actually does call himself the Dude. And it was sort of imagining him in sort of the context of a Chandler kind of a story that got us started on the script.
And with all of these character references to build off of, they knew that they had the potential for a special kind of character that would be relatable and resonate with just about everybody. And the idea to center the entire movie around the dude's hobby, bowling, is actually based on X-Lean's participation in a local softball league. They just switched it from softball to bowling because they felt bowling was more of like a social sport and it kind of fit the 50s, 60s aesthetic that they were going for. But the main thing was that bowling is a sport with a lot of downtime and it allows for great dialogue scenes.
We're talking about unchecked aggression here,
What the
dude.
fuck is he talking
My
about?
rug.
Forget it, Donnie, you're out of your element.
So the Coens have an idea for a great character that's never been done before on screen, the makings of an interesting plot with some good supporting side characters, and of course between the two of them, a record of hit movies that they could use to get financing. But there was a problem. As the script was being developed, the Coen brothers also hit a snag about 40 pages in and noticed that the script was starting to lose its steam. So they took a break from working on the script for The Big Lebowski, and they went and made another movie you might have heard of called Fargo.
Go Bears.
And this worked out because Fargo went on to become easily one of the Coen brothers' most commercially and critically successful films. And for good reason. But the writing and progress on the script for The Big Lebowski didn't stop. They completed the screenplay and were ready to make it their next movie. And with Fargo's success, it was even easier for the Coens to get a green light from Polygram and Working Title Films, who were still counting their money from Fargo, the last movie. And just like that, casting begins.
I can get you a tow. Believe me. There are ways, dude. You don't want to know about it, believe me.
Yeah, but Walter.
Okay, so firstly, the MVP supporting characters in this movie. John Goodman was always the vision for the character of Walter, the dude's trusty, unhinged sidekick with hardcore PTSD. Nobody else was even considered, and this was through and through a John Goodman role. And you know what? It is very fun. Probably my favorite character in the movie besides the dude. And the same story goes for Steve Buscemi as Donnie. He was the only person envisioned for the part, and of course, because it's the Coen brothers, he took it. And I love this character. He's ultimately just kind of adorable. John Turturro plays Jesus Quintana, a rival bowler that steals the show for the few scenes that he is in. He was an easy get for the Coens after working together and having a great time on Barton Fink. And Jesus would also get his own spin-off film, which I actually haven't seen or didn't really know about until I was researching for this video. Is it good?
Nobody fucks with the Jesus.
We also have Tara Reid, Julianne Moore, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and David Huddleston, who plays the other Jeff Lebowski. Funnily enough, the role for the other Jeff Lebowski was originally offered to Anthony Hopkins, who wasn't interested in playing an American, so he turned it down. So then they offered the part to Jack Nicholson, who reportedly was only interested in playing Moses at the time. So then they offered it to Gene Hackman, who also turned it down because he was at the time taking a break from acting. All things considered, while any of those guys could have nailed it, I'm pretty happy with what we got. Of course, who could forget the casting of Sam Elliott as this movie's narrator? Gotta love that voice.
You have to use so many cuss words.
What the fuck are you talking about?
And when it came to casting the icon himself, the dude, believe it or not, I didn't believe it at first, Jeff Bridges was not the first choice for this part. It's a weird thing to look back on now, because watching this movie, you can't really imagine the dude being played by anybody but Jeff Bridges. But at the time, the Coen brothers didn't have that conceived in their heads. In fact, they didn't know who they wanted for their main character. They had written somebody originally so eccentric and layered and complicated and deep, yet so pathetic that it was difficult to assign that to a specific actor. So they did what anybody would do, and they offered the role to Mel Gibson. He declined the role because he reportedly, quote, didn't take it too seriously, which is kind of like the whole mantra of the dude. I feel like if anything, that attitude is the right attitude to go into the role with. So with Mel Gibson out, Jeff Bridges was made the offer shortly after. But he initially didn't want to take the role. He was concerned that playing a role like this would be a bad example for his young daughters. However, one of his daughters was a big fan of the Coen brothers and convinced him to take the meeting. And he could not resist taking the role after reading the script in full and meeting with the Coen brothers. So he signed on, played a great Jeff Lebowski, and the rest is history. Now, as much as I looked, I couldn't find any proof that Jeff Bridges was actually stoned for any of his acting in this movie, but let me tell you, he could have had all of us convinced.
For fucking out.
However, there are anecdotes from the Coen brothers and Bridges himself where he says that there were times that he would approach the Coen brothers and ask them if they think that the dude would be stoned for the scene at hand, and if they said yes, he would go into the corner and rub his eyes to make them look red and bloodshot. Pretty low-tech tactics, but I gotta be honest, it fooled me. Also, I like to imagine that secretly he was burning a little bit before doing that. I mean, come on, right? I also heard that most of the wardrobe for the dude came from Jeff Bridges' own closet, and on top of that, he spent a good amount of time with the real Jeff Dowd in real life so that he could inhabit his physical stature with a sloth and kind of pushed out gut and slouchy. It's good stuff. Bridges also said that the dude is the character that in real life is the most similar to himself, which honestly, fucking love to hear it.
That's fucking interesting.
Now, for the movie's general look and tone, the Coens aimed to create something that felt retro and harkens back to the 60s and 70s aesthetic of Los Angeles, even some late 50s. Things like the retro design of the bowling alley, the faded pastel color grading, and the music used for the film help reinforce the laid-back and warm style that they were going for. I personally think that this is one of the big selling points of this movie, is the look, the cinematography, the set design, the color grading. It all looks so good. It's so Hollywood. Also, they filmed the movie in Hollywood. So, with a cast like that and a prestige look and feel for the movie, you would think that this is a big budget movie. The Coens were only granted $15 million for this movie, which even at the time was considered a modest budget for a studio comedy. However, the genius of filming a movie set in LA is that you can make use of all your connections in town to pull it off, and you don't have to build sets that look like somewhere else. So this movie's budget was no match for the Coen brothers. Roger Deakins, the film's cinematographer, recalls that they were aiming for mostly modern and contemporary grounded looks for the film that would contrast against the film's insane dream sequence, which, if you've seen the movie, you know, makes for one of the greatest music videos of all time.
I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in.
The filming of this movie took place over the course of about 3 months, with almost an entire one of those months being shot at Hollywood's Star Lanes in Los Angeles. This place is iconic, you've probably seen it. Every bowling sequence was shot there, except for the aforementioned dream sequence, which they shot in a converted airplane hangar. And that's pretty neat. According to everybody involved in the making of this movie, the shoot was lovely and mostly as fun and exciting as the film itself. And that's something that audiences immediately noticed in the film. It was fun. The way every character's chemistry feels genuine, the buddy-like feel that the dude strikes up with everybody he meets, except for the other Jeff Lebowski, and not for a lack of trying, and just the way the film moves at a cruising pace from start to finish. It's never too slow, it's never too fast. All of that is coming from the DNA of its creation. It was infused with love and comedy and real-life anecdotes, stuff that you literally just couldn't write. Lovingly rolled together with a cast who genuinely understood and cared about what the Coens were trying to do. And when the movie was finally released, it was a financial disappointment.
God damn it!
Unfortunately, this film only made about $19.5 million worldwide, which did cover the $15 million budget and a smaller sub-budget for marketing, but left the studio and filmmakers with no profit. What started off as a charming Fargo follow-up from the Coen brothers was released to a disappointing financial haul and ultimately was lost to obscurity in theaters. Until... By the time this movie was released on home video, it became a huge hit. People were buying the DVD and the VHS and recommending that other people buy the DVD and VHS on their way out of the store. This was the redemption arc for The Big Lebowski. Over the years, the movie grew a cult audience that has almost altered the history of this film, turning it into a classic that was always appreciated and beloved by audiences because, let's face it, this movie matters. It's one of the best Coen brothers ever made and one of the best movies of the 1990s. The problem was that nobody saw it at the time. But over the years, this movie has gotten its flowers. In fact, it's become one of the most popular movies among film lovers. It's an interesting comedy and one that you really don't see anything comparable to. It definitely is its own thing. And so, from a humble idea about a chill guy who loves his rug and enjoys a White Russian, to a script that included a twisted conspiracy out of a detective novel, to an increased number of Americans bowling in the year 1999, that was an interesting thing I found. The movie itself went on the ultimate hero's journey, and eventually made it into our hearts and households as one of the best. And at the end of the day, that's what matters, and that is what the fuck happened to the Big Lebowski.
I'm a brother Seamus.
Brother Seamus? Like an Irish monk?
Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this one. There are a ton of Coen Brothers movies that I would love to cover. The Big Lebowski seemed like the most obvious one to do, but let me know in the comments which other Coen Brothers movies you would be interested in hearing about, and I would love to cover them. That and whatever else you want to tell us goes down in the comments. Make sure you drop a like on the video if you liked it, subscribe for the best in movie content, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.
Ah, fuck it, dude. Let's go bowling.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.